The name of the woman who began the Southern Bus boycott, as you know, is Ms. Rosa Parks. In Montgomery, Alabama, not a long time ago, a colored lady sat down on a bus. She was tired, she did day work, she scrubbed floors, her feet hurt, and since that day she'd change the world for us. Because she said, no sir, I won't get up. I'm tired and I want to sit down and I won't get up. You can talk about Martin Luther King, have demonstrations and a thing. Just remember who began it, Rosa Parks.
Okay, I'd like to welcome everybody and all the participants. And I'm Iris Iglarsh, president of Northwest Suburban Chapter, the National Organization for Women. And I'm pleased to welcome everyone and our special guest, Nanette Massey. I also want to thank Shir Hadash Social Action Committee for co-sponsoring this event. I first met Nanette during an online book discussion earlier this year. Nanette, who lives in Buffalo, New York, is a writer, a workshop facilitator, and an expert on Robin DiAngelo's best-selling book, White Fragility. The book is a starting off point for Nanette's conversations, and she's been praised for her presentational skills and engaging style. I'm thrilled that she's able to join us today as she focuses on White Women's Tears, which is a chapter out of the book White Fragility. Nanette?
All right. Yeah, she said it all. Hi, everyone. Nanette Massey from Buffalo, New York. I always cringe a little bit when people call me an expert. Really, I'm just some chick sharing my experience with you, really. And people told me when I was a kid that I talked too much. And it's funny, my only marketable skill right now is, I'm in my 50s, my only marketable skill is I talk too much. Go figure. At any rate, okay, I'm gonna do gallery view so I can see people. Administrators, I'm gonna need you all to, let's see, to monitor the chat and monitor people who are raising their hands and need to butt in and ask me a question, okay? Because I won't see any of that. I'm just gonna talk and run right over everybody. All right. So, first of all, I want to find out. Let's see. It says we have 47 people. What do you all know about that title, White Women's Tears? Somebody tell me what that means, what you understand it as. And if somebody doesn't cut in, I start calling on people, so you may as well come on. Anybody?
Here, Nanette, everybody is muted, except you and Iris. But
okay, everyone knows how to unmute, yes?
Somebody, here, hold on. I will allow people. Yeah, I will allow people. Okay, people are allowed to unmute themselves. Okay.
Okay.
All right, but folks, please, when you're not talking, please, because it's a big crowd, stay muted. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Someone tell me what you understand of that title, White Women's Tears.
Karens. Karens. Forgive me, my sister, my best friend, but Karens.
Karens. Okay. Helen had her hand up. Helen Ramirez.
Okay, I read that chapter. It was the first chapter I read, and it was white women trying to show they're sorry for the way that Black people are being treated. That's what it meant to me. And then reading the analysis of it, you know, it's you know, it's so much phoniness, which many of us don't recognize.
Well said. Well said. All right, someone else.
Hi, this is Stuart, and I didn't get the phoniness part, but I got that in their desire, in the pain that they were feeling, the white women, to hear some of these stories they were hearing from people. it caused them to cry. And when the crowd then came to console the white woman who was crying, they were missing the whole point. Why was the white woman crying? Don't console the white woman, console the person who's speaking and causing the white woman to cry.
Missing the point. Excellent. Well said. All right. One more person, Marty Sidek.
I think it's guilt, but possibly without any actual action following up on the guilt.
Okay. All right. That sounds good. That sounds good. All right. One of the, hold on for 1 second, okay? I'll be right back. And I'm going to go with one more. Hoda has her hand up.
Yes, I can think of an instance where an African American person or even a European American person points out a racial attitude, behavior, language, and instead of the white person saying, you know what, that was not right, I shouldn't have said that, they go into all the different tactics of denial, minimization, turning it around. You made me feel bad. You're a terrible person. I didn't mean to do this. And it's weaponized white fragility. That's the one I see happen most.
All right. Hoda's read the book. All right. If you guys have seen any of the advertising that we had going for today's session, the question that I asked was, why is it inappropriate for a woman to wear a white dress to another woman's wedding? Somebody answer that for me. Anybody?
Because you're taking the focus off the bride and putting the focus on yourself.
Exactly. Exactly. And that is, so let's look at the very beginning of the book, the first page. I am going to need my glasses for this. Okay. Let's see, the first page. All right, we're white fragility. Why it's so hard for white people to talk about racism by Robin DiAngelo. I have to do that for the recording. All right, and on the first page, Robin defines white fragility. She says, white people in North America live in a society that is deeply separate and unequal by race. And white people are the beneficiaries of that separation and inequality. As a result, we are insulated from racial stress. Given how seldom we experience racial discomfort in a society we dominate, we haven't had to build up our racial stamina. Socialized into a deeply internalized sense of superiority that we either are unaware of or can never admit to ourselves, we become highly fragile in conversations about race. We consider a challenge to our racial worldview as a challenge to our very identities as good moral people. Thus, we perceive any attempt to connect us to the system of racism as an unsettling and unfair moral offense. The smallest amount of racial stress is intolerable. The mere suggestion that being white has meaning often triggers a range of defensive responses. And I wrote in there predictable defensive responses. These include emotions such as anger, fear, guilt, behaviors such as argumentation, silence, and withdrawal from the stress-inducing situation. These work to reinstate white equilibrium as they repel the challenge. I lost my place. As they repel the challenge and return our racial comfort and maintain our dominance within the racial hierarchy. The author is white, so she says me, I, and our, and she's referring to white people in general. Return our racial comfort and maintain our dominance within the racial hierarchy. I conceptualized this process as white fragility. So the author had been doing diversity and inclusion trainings for corporations for 20-something years. And she started to see that there are certain regular patterns to how white people were responding to the conversation about race. Now, another thing to mention is that part of white privilege is that white people get to see themselves as individuals. Non-white people are generally seen as a conglomerate. So when a Black person does something, it comes off as representative of all Black people. But when you say to a white person, white people habitually do this, 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 part of white fragility is, but I'm an individual, I'm different, you don't understand. And given how often we hear that, that negates individuality, really, when you think about it. So going back to white women's tears, I think Hoda said it really well. So a situation will come about where a white woman is made aware of something inappropriate that she did or said. And then a non-white person will say something to her and she will start crying. She will start saying, you don't understand me. I didn't mean this, that, this, that. And now, just like the woman wearing a white dress at someone else's wedding, the attention goes away from the thing that we were talking about, and all the attention goes to comforting this poor woman, this poor white woman. And the person or people that the original offense was done unto have completely disappeared from the conversation. And now the only thing that's important is reestablishing equilibrium for this white person, reestablishing their identity as a good white person. I'm not a racist, you don't understand. And we're all going, yeah, we understand, we know, we understand you didn't mean it. But the thing is, this is what I like to say to people. Okay, I get it. You're one of the good ones. You don't do this, that, and this, that. I get it, okay? So now we've established that you're a good person. But now you can go off on your life, your hands are clean and you're done. And Breonna Taylor is still dead. George Floyd is still dead. So nothing has changed for it. Okay, so we've established that you're a good white person, but nothing has changed for anybody. Nothing has changed for you personally in your understanding. Nothing has changed for Black people. And nothing has been forwarded about race in general in society. But we get it. You're a good person. Get it. That's so valuable to this overall conversation, not at all. Okay? So, questions and comments so far? Folks, this is going to be a long hour and a half if it's just me chatting.
You know, Nanette,
yes.
Another thought as to, and I don't think I ever thought of this before, but it's so deeply racist in our society, just the very fact that, you know, white is the color of purity, that's purity and innocence. The fact that wedding gowns are white, for that itself is deeply racist.
Yeah, what you were saying about white as purity and innocence, that's important because when you look at studies of how people perceive Black children, it's been shown time and time again that Black children are perceived as less innocent than white children. So what happens is a 7-year-old white kid will do something to act out. We call their parents and we put them on Ritalin, poor thing. A 7-year-old Black kid will do the same thing And next thing you know, there's a video on YouTube of that 7-year-old in handcuffs. You guys have you guys seen those? Have you guys seen any of the videos?
Yes. Yes.
Kids of color
Yeah,
as young
absolutely.
as 4 in handcuffs.
Yes.
Helen?
I've literally had a conversation with our school because my child has an IEP, and in the plan there's action for, in the event that he needs.
Clarify IEP for the people who are going to be listening to this later on video.
So it's I'm trying to think of what it stands for. It's an individual
education program.
Yeah, it's basically for children who need extra support in different areas. For my child personally, it's for behavioral issues, and he has ADHD. So part of his plan is a reaction, how they're going to take care of things if he became, let's say, violent or aggressive or something to that effect. And he's 8, I would have thought, but until recently I saw a 7-year-old being, put in the back of a police car and pepper sprayed. I would never have thought in a million years that I have to be concerned about this. But I made the school put it in writing that they would not call the police. They're not equipped to handle children. And I'm 5 minutes away. You call me before you call police. But it's sad that I have to say that. I have to tell them.
And how
don't ever call the police on my child.
Yeah. Who said that? I didn't get who said that.
I'm Vicky. Sorry, Vicky Bryce.
Okay, Vicky Bryce. I see you. Oh, you've got 2 little gorgeous dark kids.
I do. Yeah.
Look at them babies. Hey. All right. And how that whole innocence plays out as those kids become adults is me and Vicky walk through a metal detector at a retail store. The metal detector goes off, and who do you think they're going to stop first? Me. I don't know if you guys have heard of, there is a scientist named Neil deGrasse Tyson. Did I say that right?
Neil deGrasse Tyson.
He's a rock star in my eyes. I'm a huge fan of his. But he tells the story of when he was young, and he was at a store, and he went through a metal detector. Him and another white guy went through a metal detector at the same time. Of course, security stopped him, and he saw that this white guy had purposely timed his own going through the metal detector for the same time that Neil went by, because he knew that the security guard would stop Neil. And that starts all the way back at, like we said earlier, 7 years old, he acts out, we put him on Ritalin if he's white. 7 years old, he's black, we call the police.
Well, while we're waiting for Nanette, I kind of had a question to get what people's opinion is of this, but I reread the Women's White Tears chapter, and is that it? I think we're coming on, but as this is working, I read the White Women Tears chapter and the whole book actually, and I just feel like I just came to the conclusion that all white people in some way have some idea, some racist ideas in their head. And it's really kind of hard to understand how it feels to be black. Is she back? Yeah. So I guess my question is, if we accept the fact that everyone who's white has some degree of racism, what can we do to move on beyond that and identify that and move ahead? Because I noticed that a lot of times when the subject comes up, people get really sensitive about it. And even in, discussions like this and, conversations like this, people will get upset about it, which to me exactly reflects white fragility. So I'm just wondering if anybody wanted to share some experiences they had related to that issue. Lisa?
For me, I had a similar reaction reading the book, and to me, it's about acceptance that being racist doesn't make you a bad person. It's a mentality that needs to be changed, in my opinion. And awareness of my racist views is the first step towards correcting those views. So that's how I see it.
Okay. Helen?
Yeah, I was going to say, you asked what we can do about it, and what we're doing now is a good example of what we can do. We're at the stage that we're just raising awareness of the big problem that this is. And I was at a workshop held by the Coalition of Labor Union Women, which for the first time made me aware of the bias I had, even though I thought I had come a long way. So awareness is number one. And, we just celebrated 100 years of women getting the right to vote. And we've had a lot of programs on Black women who have not been recognized, but they have worked hard to help us get the right to vote. And then Black people really couldn't get the right to vote until 1965. And look at the battles we're fighting now in Georgia and other states. It's still bad. So the fact that we had so many people signed up for this shows that people are willing to become aware. So we're making a step in the right direction with a long way to go.
This is Vicki Bryce. Sorry, I don't have a camera. So, but I think the most important thing is just being willing to talk about it. And, that's the first step. I think that when we refuse to kind of talk about it, it's easy to kind of push it under the rug and not deal with it. So I think first and foremost is just being open to talking about it. And I can see you're on this one.
We have a couple of raised hands. Karen, do you want to unmute yourself and share your thought?
Yeah, I would say too, we have to know, a diverse crowd of people. I saw somebody wrote something in the chat about being a Jewish racist, but if you don't have friends if you don't know people who are Black, you don't interact with them, then you're going to have these preconceived notions. And like Vicki said, you can talk to each other about them, but if you don't talk with a diverse crowd of people, you're never going to really get a sense of that, that all people are people, and, and really get that into your soul, I guess you could say. Just like if you grew up in some place where there were no Jewish people, you might have a lot of preconceived notions about Jewish people, and you wouldn't, but with anti-Blackness, it's like a special kind of racism, I think, in our society. And it's a lot of it is just people aren't exposed to other people, and put yourself into situations where you can experience different scenarios. I belong to a couple nursing groups since I retired, and a lot of the nurses I worked with were African American, and both of the groups are African American groups. In one, I'm only one of two white women in the group, nurses, and in the other nurses organization, I'm the only white person in our local chapter. So, when you think of how if you put yourself in that situation, you think of how you feel, how uncomfortable you feel, and then you realize, what it's like to be a minority, and you know, and for you, you have all this white privilege and, you know, the way society thinks of you, but people of color, you know, don't have that. So I mean, as weird as you feel being in, you know, around people who all seem like they're different from you, imagine how somebody, you know, who is does not have that white privilege feels, you know, wading into different environments. Yeah, it's really a complex issue, but I think, yeah, one of the things, like Vicki said, talking to people and talking to a variety of people and putting yourself in situations where you're around a variety of people and people of who are Black, brown, and, you know, talking about the issue and talking about what's important.
While Ed's trying to pull that, Iris, I know you were trying to connect with Nanette. Karen, you mentioned the comment in the chat about someone feeling like a Jewish racist. Roberta, I'm not putting you on the spot because I know that was your comment you put in the chat. If you would like to expand on that, feel free to unmute yourself if you want to talk more about that. And if you don't want to, that's okay too. I'll let you think about that for a minute. Marty, I see you have your hand raised. Do you want to?
I just wanted to mention, and this is something that happened to me a couple of years ago as I was starting to approach these difficult conversations. And that's that from the position of a white woman going into a room, wanting to learn more, but approaching it, instead of saying, just tell me about your experiences, I'm here to listen, approaching it like, teach me, teach me, teach me. And I had a couple of hard lessons on that, getting slapped back at you know, with, hey, it's not our job to teach you, it's your job to go out and do the homework. And they were right, of course. And that's when I started Googling lists of stuff to read and all of that. Now it's more readily available. But I think there is a little bit of a line there when we're trying to approach these conversations on learning and showing our eagerness to learn, but at the same time, putting it over the top in a way that's like, it's their job to coach us, not our job to change from within after what we learn.
Mm-hmm. I was wondering if maybe some of the people who are Nanette fans who join her Sunday events might have some insights to share because you're obviously, I would guess you're more familiar with what Nanette's been talking about, and maybe sharing your own experiences of how it's helped you, what you've learned. Would anybody like to, who's been in her group, like to talk about that? Let's see. Oh, I see. Okay.
The first time,
oh,
can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. The first time I heard Nanette speak, I just really appreciated the frankness that, you know, it wasn't about preserving your feelings, you know, it was about trying to better understand. And if that meant she said something that might hurt somebody's feelings, it wasn't necessarily that important. It was about focusing on, you know, the issues at hand and how there is this racism that pervades our society. So so I can say that about it. And I did have her come speak to a book club that I organized with our teachers union. And I think it was tough for some people to hear that, you know, they look at themselves as good white people. And so so I think it was a little difficult. So I'm not sure. I don't know. It's a conversation that has to be had, I think, you know. So I'm not sure what else specifically, but like she I think definitely made people more aware.
Okay.
Iris, did you hear from some people that my presentation was difficult? Did you actually hear that?
Like I asked for some feedback after the book club, and somebody said it's a conversation that has to be had, but let people know up front that there's tough issues that they're going to have to face. So so I said, okay, I'm okay with that. Like I can make people aware of that. So
Yeah.
and again, I think they look at themselves as good white people, and so they need to know, even if they're good, that there's still work to be done.
Uh-huh. All right.
In the meantime, Laura, did you have a question? Yeah, Laura had a question. You're muted. Okay,
Sorry.
good.
Everybody knows Laura is not good at technology. Look, my grandma Sylvia was a wonderfully wise woman, and she taught me the most incredible phrase, and it's nobody sees on themselves. And it has fueled my life. And basically what it is that I need to own it. I need to look at myself in the mirror, and I need to see who I am. I don't know why all of a sudden I got very emotional about this, but I grew up in an environment where, our synagogue, the temple, really spent a lot of energy down in Atlanta working for
The Poor People's Campaign?
Well, this was back in the 60s. This was Rabbi Rothschild and this. And, for quite a while, I would talk about it, and I found that I was centering myself. And one of the best things that I learned from Crossroads, which was a wonderful training that we did.
Crossroads, yes.
Yes, is to pull myself out.
Mhm.
And, when I live out in the bubble of Naperville, and we do call it the bubble out here. There was when the Black Lives Matters protests were going on and what have you, there was a lot of crap that came out. I said we should do a Nobody Sees on Themselves mirror project in Naperville, where people really had to look inside themselves and see who they are. My joke was, of course, that all the ladies who lunch would be checking their makeup in the mirror before they went into the fancy restaurants. But I think that's the thing that I have been learning, and it's a long process. And I think we all have a very sharp learning curve. But if we had own it, I mean, Ed laughs at me because I say I really stink at technology. I own that. It's okay. I own that, and that's not the same. But let's.
All right, let me interrupt you, Laura. So you are onto an excellent soft spot point for me. So Laura, what I am finding is that too many white folks, my experience is that too many white folks are using their awareness around race to continue to center their white selves. And they're using my pain, people getting shot on TV, shot and killed on TV and so much, as tools to grow their white selves.
Yeah.
I have an essay on my webpage where I say, we are not your whetstone for you to sharpen yourself against. We're not the stone that you sharpen your knife against. We're real people out here having real stuff going on. And if you're getting involved in this, it needs to be about more than yourself. The other thing is I am still hearing white people say they, them, those people, this country, okay? So this group over here is saying those people, those white people. This group of people here is saying those white people, those white people, those white people. And Breonna Taylor is still dead, and I'm still getting stopped by the police driving through the suburbs. But everybody is them. Everybody is them. So who are you in this? This book So many, she talked, one of the chapters in the book is the good, bad, Ed, no email? All right, I'll send it again. One of the chapters in the book, she talks about the good, bad binary. Iris, do you have it? The good, bad binary. And what I'm finding is that too many white people are using this book to check themselves off, check off all the dots on the good side of the binary. And then they're like, okay, I don't do this, I don't do this, I don't do this. I'm a good white person. I'm done. And then they continue to live their lives of privilege. And it doesn't forward anything for anybody. All it does is clean up their identity as good white people. And one of the things that Robin DiAngelo says about this book is all white people need to do for racism to continue as it is be nice. That's all white people need to do.
Oh, can I say something?
Actually, let me come back to Laura. So Laura, all of you, like I said, when I drive through your neighborhood, I'm still getting stopped by the police. We need you to see yourselves within this system, just as I do. We need you to see yourselves within it somewhere. Then you can stop asking Black people all the time, what should I do? What should I do? What should I do? When you see yourself in it, what's next for you to do makes itself evident. And that's going to be different for all of us. So you can't really ask me.
No, it's not fair. It's not, it's not fair to ask you. It's what do I find within my, let me see myself.
Right.
Sorry,
so Laura,
I cut you off. I apologize.
So here's the question that I have for you, Laura.
Okay, cool.
Where have you personally recognized that you have benefited from white privilege?
Oh, easy.
Okay, give us two examples.
Okay, one of my favorite, I can give you a bunch, people know. I have a joke that I say that a speed limit is just a suggestion. Anybody that's driven with me to Springfield knows that I drive like a bat out of hell. And I know for a fact that you can't do that.
No.
Plain and simple.
That is a wonderful example, because here's an example that I often give of white privilege. Say I'm driving through Laura's neighborhood and there's a police officer sitting at a speed trap. He sees Laura drive by doing 75. He says, oh, that's Laura. She's 2 blocks away, she's fine. So Laura's at home on time at 6 o'clock having dinner with her family and thinks nothing of it. I drive by doing, say the speed limit, it's a school district, so the speed limit is 15. I'm doing 16. Okay, I drive by. This cop doesn't know who I am. He pulls me over. I'm standing on the side of the road doing this and pulling out all my ID, and he's asking me, who are you and where are you going? And Laura doesn't realize that just the fact that she's sitting at home with her family on time for dinner was an expression of white privilege.
Yep.
I want you all to drink that in, because white people keep saying to us that Black people, that we are making a big deal out of nothing. But while I'm standing there on the side of the road, watching all of these white people speed by,
Right.
and that seems like nothing to you, but that's an everyday occurrence to me.
Nanette.
And then people want to call me an angry Black woman. Hell yeah, I'm angry.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get home and have dinner with my kids, just like you. And I can't simply because of the color of my skin.
Yep.
And
Yeah,
you
Nanette,
don't recognize that. So you say to me, what white privilege? My parents grew up poor. Do you see that? Let me just make that point real clear. Because a lot of us, a lot of white folks just really can't see that. And just as she says in the book, that's how it's supposed to work. You don't see it. You know, but then a simple thing like getting home on time for dinner just builds and builds and builds and builds in my experience. And then people are looking at me like, why is she so angry? Why is she making such a big deal out of nothing all the time? Y'all understand that?
Yeah, I get that.
Speaking, I saw Ed. All right, who was trying to cut in?
Me.
Go ahead.
Iris. So you had asked Laura, what does she know is, what has she seen, she know that she's taken advantage of with white privilege?
Mm-hmm.
So I started thinking about this when I read the book, and it starts from age 0.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then I go to school and all my teachers are white. And I go to a good school. I mean, it was a public school, but it was a good school because it was in a good neighborhood.
Right.
And then I got a good education. And then I got into college and I could afford college.
What year did you go to college, Iris?
I'm old, so
We're among friends, come on.
Let me put it this way. I graduated high school in 1969.
Okay.
So freshman year was like 1970, okay?
The point that I'm trying to make is during the years that you went to college, there were still colleges that specifically did not admit Blacks.
Okay, well, I went to a big state university.
Hold on.
Sorry.
I want y'all to drink that in. Because you're thinking, I went to college, I did everything right, I deserve everything that I have. And for a lot of you, you really were the beneficiary, especially my older friends here, you really were the beneficiaries of affirmative action.
Yep.
There were Black people who were kicked out and space was made for mediocre white people. Do you get that? Because again, like she says in the book, what's so great about white privilege is that it's invisible. So
yes.
People like me, again, you all look at people like me and like, why is she tripping? All I did was get into college.
Yeah. Well,
during the years that you were in college, there were still colleges, state colleges too.
I know.
That were not admitting Black people.
Right.
I talked to a woman who was 93. This was years ago. She was 93. She was Jewish. We were in Atlanta, and she was telling me that her husband went to Emory University, pharmacy school. He was a pharmacist, and they had a set number of Jewish people they would admit at that time, and certainly no Black people.
Right.
Anyway, go ahead.
So what I was trying to get to the point, which was and I'm liberal, and I've always been like, integration, diversity, and whatever word you want to use as the decades change,
Right.
And I walked on the white pathway, and I didn't even know it. I mean, I just did. I didn't know it.
Right.
I didn't think about it. I didn't think, oh, I'm doing this and I'm stepping on other people's toes. I never thought that. I just I went to school. I got a good job. I got my own place. I could afford my own place. I lived there. I got married. I moved to a suburb, which is mostly white.
And there's a reason for that. It didn't happen by accident.
That's what I'm supposed to do. And now I'm like, I know I shouldn't feel guilty for that, but what do I do? Yeah.
What do I do? Y'all are gonna have to pay me for another seminar for that. But I will tell you this: we have no use for your guilt. None whatsoever. So folks, do what you need to do. I read a lot of reviews of her book where people say it's a guilt fest and Robin just wants white people to feel guilty. She actually says in the book, guilt is a useless emotion. It keeps you centered on yourself. And it keeps you from being active. We have no use for your guilt. None of this is about making you feel guilty. It's about making you aware, just like, you know, just like when you're on a diet, you eat the ice cream, you feel guilty about it, so you think that does something, but you still eat the ice cream and you still got the gut. So what did guilt do? Guilt did nothing for you. Awareness and choice is what will have you, you know, choose something other than the ice cream. I don't know if it's going to be lettuce. I know it wouldn't be me. It wouldn't be lettuce or celery for me. But guilt, folks, Horrendous Deum, whatever it is that the Catholics do, absolve yourselves of guilt. We have no use for it. Okay. Aaron, you had your hand up. Did you have something? Or was it just left up from before?
I'm sorry if it's very loud in the background here. It's very distracting with screaming kids.
Go ahead.
I do a lot of anti-racist work with my kids, especially my 8-year-old. She's really interested. And so we find lots of child appropriate analogies. And so it's a great way to learn too, learning with kids.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that we were talking about in one of her last classes, Outschool has some amazing stuff, by the way.
Be mindful of the time, Aaron.
Sorry?
Be mindful of the time.
Thank you. So one of the things we talked about was, so we're white, and if we had a big bucket of money and we were able to get all the things we need, shelter, food, all the things we need, wouldn't we share what we have left with others? Well, she says, of course we would. I said, well, you're white, so think about your big bucket or backpack as a big bucket of power. So you're not going to give it away, but you're going to use it.
Yes.
And so use your whiteness. You don't feel guilty about it, don't feel sad about it, but use it, use your voice and say things and speak up and learn more. Use your whiteness for that power.
Boom, what Aaron said. So you needn't feel guilty about white privilege. Recognize that but once you recognize it, you get to choose how it operates in the world. You get to choose. So you get to choose. You know that there's a job opening at your job. You could mention it to, you know, the white guy next door, or you could drive across town to the job center on the black side of town and post it on the board. And you didn't have to sweat yourself up in a march. You didn't have to get arrested. You didn't have to pay any money. Do you see? There's so much. When people ask, what can I do? What can I do? Like I said, for each of you, it's individual. You guys are looking for some big thing that you can tackle. Just taking that job lead over to the black side of town, knowing that these are people who don't rub out. 90% of finding a job is who you know. So those people don't rub elbows with these people and are unlikely to have found out about this job. You just did an anti-racist act. Better yet, find someone of color and groom and sponsor them. Now that person can do for themselves. Lisa Burton.
I get what you're saying about using the power. Could you talk a little bit about how to avoid becoming a white savior?
Well, for one, you got to get rid of guilt, because white saviorism is an expression of guilt. And my ultimate lesson in everything that I do, are we going to have time to run over, guys, or no?
Yeah. Let's just, Nanette, my suggestion is, let's just keep going as long as we feel like it. This is really
Okay, great. Okay.
time. That's
So my ultimate message in everything that I do is that one of the sessions that I did, I had a woman who is of the Baha'i faith, if you are familiar with that at all. And the Baha'is believe not that, the Baha'is believe very, very, very literally that we are all cut from the same cloth. So, and I do too. And what is necessary, mostly, I believe, from white people in anti-racism, is we need for you all to stop seeing us as some people over there that you're coming to help. We need you to see us as yourselves. Somebody hurts your kid, he's hurting you, he's hurting your family, right? When oh Jesus, what's his name with the knee on the neck? Help me out.
George Floyd.
George Floyd.
Derek.
When that happened, we needed for white people not to call us up and ask us, are you okay? We needed for white people to be just as hurt. We needed you to see George Floyd as your neighbor. The guy who cuts, what if that was the guy who cuts your grass? What if that kid was a friend of your son's and he had just sat at your table and had a bologna sandwich yesterday? I don't know, does anybody still eat bologna? I don't know. Turkey sandwich. We need you to feel like that. We need you to hurt like that. And when you are coming from that genuine place, what there is to do, like I said, it makes itself apparent to you. And that's going to be different for each person. Some of you are teachers. What there is for you to do is just pay more attention to the Black kids in your class. That one Black kid who's falling behind, instead of saying, let's kick him into special education. You know, maybe you spend an extra 10 minutes with him after class every day. That's an anti-racist act. When I was in 3rd grade, here's a story that I tell all the time. When I was in 3rd grade, I was in an all-Black school. My teacher I had a white teacher. She gave us she gave us a list of spelling words that we were responsible for studying on our own and being ready for a test on Friday. Very quickly, before I did really, she noticed that I had an unusual aptitude for language and spelling. She started doing a separate spelling list just for me every week. And here I am. Like, my only marketable skill is I know a lot of big words. Only thing I can do is talk a good game. And that white teacher was a part of creating that. That's who that white teacher put me in front of you guys today. That could be you. And like I said, you don't have to sweat yourself up at a march. You don't have to get arrested. You don't have to give no money. What there is to do is right in front of you. and you're looking for this big thing over there. You know? So so Lisa, I'm preaching like a preacher. Did I answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so what I'm going to do is, if we've got some more people with their hands up, I'm sorry, I'm going to skip you. And Ed, you do have the videos, right?
Yes, indeed.
I want you to show the second one.
Okay, coming right up.
So we're going to go back to talking about white women's tears.
Ed, Iris?
Share screen. Let's see. Share screen. Share screen. Here we go. Okay, the videos. There we go.
Oh yes, this was a much better idea. All right, did you do share audio?
Please don't come close to me.
We're good. We're good.
Please don't come close to me.
Please take your phone off.
Please don't come close to me.
I'm taking pictures on the cops.
Please call the cops. Please call the cops.
I'm going to tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life.
Please tell them whatever you like.
Excuse me? I'm sorry, I'm in a ramble, and there is a man, African-American, who has a bike behind us. He is recording me and threatening me and my dog. There is an African-American man, I am in Central Park. He is recording me and threatening myself and my dog. I'm sorry, I can't hear Frida. I'm being threatened by a man in the ramble. Please send the cops immediately. I'm in Central Park in the ramble. I don't know.
Thank you.
All right. So folks, give me some feedback on that video. Tell me what you saw. Anybody? Elizabeth Frank.
I say something?
Go ahead, Erin.
Thanks. So, kind of piggybacking on what I was talking about earlier, she's using, again, that whiteness versus blackness to get her way. And I just, like, one thing you said to me earlier, Nanette, or not to me, sorry, when you were talking earlier was, it made me think of, like, as a white person, I'm not frightened to make mistakes.
Good.
I don't worry about making mistakes in public, to public, like civilians. I don't worry about making mistakes in front of police, like you're saying, like speeding, anything like that. And even if I did get as far as courts, I'm not afraid of courts. And so that level of stress that I don't carry gets me so much further because it's not as heavy. And it just, those things made me think of that.
Yes.
It's too much to carry on your shoulders.
Yes. And that's why you have less Black people with PhDs. The energy that could go into creating a PhD, they're navigating getting through the neighborhood okay without getting killed.
Nanette, I saw Patricia had a question. Patricia, do you want to talk? Unmute yourself.
Oh, okay, I think I'm unmuted. I was going to make a similar comment about that woman in the park.
Patricia, you're muted.
Oh man, I got muted again. I think I'm unmuted.
Okay, go ahead.
I was just saying that it's infuriating to watch that type of video because
boy, the ghost in the machine today, huh? All right, so if Pete is 5'7" and Jim is 6'2", who is tall and who is short? Anybody?
I think Pete's short. Is Pete the short one?
Okay, Pete was the first one. He's 5'10".
Yeah.
And then Jim is 6'2".
Jim's the tall one.
So Pete is short and Jim is tall. Okay. Ted comes in and he's 6'4". Now between Jim and Ted, who's tall and who's short? Jim is now short and Ted is tall. So it's all relative. Yes? Okay?
Yes.
So hot, there needs to be cold in order for there to be hot. There needs to be bad in order for there to be good. They're all relative things, right? So tall only exists in the presence of shortness. Y'all with me? Because if you're not, I'm going to lose you on the next one. Okay? In that video, that white woman needed that black man to know himself as lesser than her in order for it to be true that she is white and she is better. Do you follow that? So she, in order for her to affirm her identity as superior, and Robin DiAngelo tells us messages of superiority rain down on white people 24/7. The inverse of that, of course, is going to be that messages of inferiority rain down on non-white people 24/7. But in order for that to be true and for her to experience that, she needed that man to know his place. You follow? He was bucking the system. And he was bucking her identity, her sense of who she knows herself to be. He needed to be less in order for her to know herself as superior. And that episode was about putting him in his place. And it wasn't just an episode between two people. That's what we need white folks to understand. That's what I was saying earlier. A lot of white people are reading this so that they can check themselves off on the good bad binary. It's not about you as a good or bad person. It is about a system and where each of us operate in it. The police operate in that system in keeping white as superior and black as inferior. And she knew that. And that is why she specifically said, there is a black man. She could have said some guy is photographing me and it's making me nervous. And the police would have been like, so what? And she knew that. There is a whole system, and there are several systems that all agree with each other and intersect with each other to make all of this work. On page 137, white men come to the rescue of white women in cross-racial settings. Patriarchy is reinforced as they play savior to our damsel in distress. By legitimizing white women as the targets of harm, both white men and women accrue social capital. So the police, the system of policing, needs white people and black people to know their place. Because that officer couldn't have put his knee, Derek Chauvin couldn't have put his knee on a white person's neck for 9 hours. And we all know that. You know, so all of that was going on in that interaction. Do you guys see that? This wasn't just one crummy lady and one black guy having a bad afternoon in the park. and it was twilight. I used to play tennis, and it was about, 5-ish, 6-ish, when the sun is getting where you can't quite see everything, just so. And we were knocking the balls back and forth. This ball was coming at me. I was set up for the shot. I knew I was going to kill it. This ball landed right in my eye and knocked the lens of my glasses out. I said, yeah, it's time for us to quit. That's what vision is like at that hour. And that was about the time that this episode happened. So if the police had showed up and that man had his binoculars in his hands, and somebody thought it was a gun, Gretchen Brewster, there she goes, and somebody thought it was a gun, this whole thing would have gone down a whole lot differently. Do you think it matters if Central Park Karen is a nice white person or not? Do you see? Do you see how useless it is for you guys to get yourselves on the, check yourselves off on the good bad binary? You're all, you personally are a nice white person, and that guy would have been dead for nothing. To uphold white supremacy, to help that woman affirm her identity as superior, for nothing. Comments? I know I left you speechless. Come on now, folks, talk. Somebody say something. Go ahead, Patricia Jurgensen.
I was thinking about a comment that Iris had made, and I was interested in your thoughts because you had left the chat to figure out the video. Where she talked about, if I remember correctly, basically that we all carry racism in us because of how we grew up and what we're kind of indoctrinated into. And the way that I see it, and I'm curious your ideas about it, is that it's all on a spectrum, and we look at the extreme side of racism and we don't identify with that, and that's why we say them, when right. It's a whole spectrum of things, and we're over here somewhere. And once we can accept that, then we can play detective with ourselves about where does this exist in me and how do I eradicate it?
Exactly. How do I eradicate it in me and in the spaces that I am accountable for?
Right.
And I wouldn't even say spectrum, because that still has like a measure of good, bad in it. Ibram Kendi says that we are doing racist things or anti-racist things in each moment. So it's not about a spectrum, it's about who you're being in the moment. And
I like that. Thank you.
And we're all different. One moment I'm lying to this 25-year-old about my age. So in this moment, I'm a liar. In another moment, I was at a supermarket in Atlanta, and there was a woman in the parking lot who didn't speak any English, and she needed money for food. I just got a huge bonus at work. I took the lady in the supermarket, we walked around, I bought her $90 worth of food. In that moment, I was a hero, I was a good person. 5 minutes early, I was lying to this 25-year-old about my age. Who we are in each, we get to choose who we are in each moment. And letting go of guilt lets us let go of who we were yesterday, because we get to recreate ourselves in each moment. So I would say beyond spectrum even, think in each moment, who are you being in each moment? Does that make sense?
Absolutely, I appreciate that, thank you.
All right, someone else.
Hello, this is Gretchen. I was out to lunch when you called me last. I just wanted to speak to the occasion of my own experience after the killing of George Floyd. We had a really what I felt was a strong, effective march here in my hometown. And
All right, be mindful of the time, Gretchen. Go
okay,
ahead.
and at the conclusion, I was overwhelmed with where do I plug in? And I came up with this elaborate idea of, we can set up all these committees and we can all get, sign up for whatever works. And I was quickly advised we did not need more committees. And instead, you just need to plug in where you feel your strengths are and where you can be effective. So I learned my lesson there.
You know what? Black people be tripping. Y'all be setting up all these committees and everything. And we're just sitting there like, Lord have mercy. All I need is bus fare to get to work.
Yes, yes.
So that I can help myself. But this person's over here, this committee, that committee, this march, blah, 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 blah. And the Black lady sitting next to you at work, she might be showing up late every day because of the bus, and she only lives a couple of blocks out of your way, and you could pick her up and carpool with her. And that's what you could do for racial equality. You could help that woman keep her job and feed her kids. Y'all get me? So how do you see the Central Park Karen situation, if at all? How do you see it differently, given how I outlined all of that? Anybody?
Well, I was going to say, I see the history goes way, way back, and I see the danger, and I think of Emmett Till. And, that's
that episode that we watched right there, that is exactly Emmett Till. That is exactly Emmett Till. So when you hear Black people saying ain't a damn thing changed, we're not unnecessarily cynical. Do you see that? That is exactly Emmett Till. And it was all about a white woman's tears and her need for this other person to be lower in order for her to affirm herself and her identity as more. Who was starting to talk?
That was me. I was just gonna say the Tulsa Massacre came out of something like that as well. The two people in the elevator, very similar. She screamed, everybody freaked out and burned it down. Yeah, everybody meeting.
And what it was really about was Black people were doing well, and all the lies that white people had taught themselves about these Black people were being proven untrue by all of these people who were succeeding. And the white people in the city couldn't stand it. It wasn't even about the elevator, the elevator thing. The elevator was just the match. All these people succeeding in Tulsa were proving to be complete lies. Everything that white people told themselves about Black people. So white people needed to reestablish themselves as more by cutting down all those successful Black people. And did the government step in and say, wow, that was wrong? We need to sue some people and get some justice? No. No.
Not until 2 years ago.
Yeah, I want you all to know that Erin is a regular on my Sundays. So.
Sorry.
No. You're just saying lots of great stuff, and I want people to know that's why, because she's a regular with me.
So also just a point, like this month, 100 years ago was when the Tulsa Massacre happened, and they call it the race riots, and they weren't race riots. It was a massacre. So just to be like, we need to rename that.
Right. All right. Patricia, let me move on, okay?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask you, how do we join the Sunday meetings?
Yeah, I will do my commercial in the end, okay?
And I know we're at our 8:30, we're just past our 8:30 mark. I'm fine to continue. I just, want to be courteous with people's time. But, you know, I feel, you know, I'd be willing to continue if it's okay with other people.
I am too. I am too. I'm seeking desperately to rescue the technical train wreck that the first 40 minutes were. All right, Ed, the first video.
Okey-doke, coming up.
This one is the whole Sharon Osbourne debacle.
Oh, God.
Yeah. So Meghan Markle, who is Black, married a prince over in England. She got it really bad in the press. She felt that it was racial. They came back over here. Her and her prince husband came over here to the US. They interviewed with Oprah, and Meghan talked about how she felt like a lot of the bad press that was happening to her was racially motivated. And there was a big deal talking head in the UK. His name was Piers Morgan. He said that he didn't think it was racially motivated and that Meghan Markle was making up everything and nothing she said was true. So these three ladies on this talk show called The Talk were talking about it. And one of the ladies is Sharon Osbourne, who is from the UK. She knows Piers Morgan, and she was defending Piers Morgan. She said, you know what? He's a big mouth. They pay him to be a big mouth, and he was just spouting out his opinion. And a lot of people felt that a lot of what Piers Morgan was saying had some racial undertones to it that weren't being acknowledged. So that looked bad for Sharon Osbourne to be co-signing for him. And go ahead, Ed.
Okay, here goes.
All right. Fingers crossed, everybody. Oh, I'm sorry. Wrong video.
It's important for us.
Wrong video. Third video.
I thought you said first. Oh.
I did. I was mistaken.
After my DVT blood.
Oh boy.
Commercial.
I had this all lined up. I really did. There we go. Okay, move it up to 1 minute and 9 seconds.
Other than if I don't know, I'm willing to learn. If it comes off a certain way, I stand corrected.
Right.
That's the only thing I'm saying.
Yeah.
So what would you say to people who may feel that you
Ed,
standing by your
move it up to 1 minute and 9 seconds.
Okay.
validation
All right,
or
Here we go.
Pierce.
Uh-huh.
Lashed out at Cheryl. Take a look.
I feel even like I'm about to be put in the electric chair because I have a friend who many people think is a racist, so that makes me a racist. And for me, at 68 years of age, to have to turn around and say, I ain't racist. What's it got to do with me? Okay, how can I be racist about anybody? How can I be racist about anybody or anything in my life? How can I?
Well, I tell you,
what?
We'll be right back. We have more topics, so don't go away.
And I think we should stop this.
Yeah. Keep going. Keep going.
I've been asking you during the break. I'm asking you again, and don't try and cry, because if anyone should be crying, it should be me. This is the situation.
Yes.
You tell me where you have heard him say, educate me. Tell me when you have heard him say racist things. Educate me. Tell me.
It is not the exact words of racism. It's the implication and the reaction to it. To not want to address that because she is a Black woman and to try to dismiss it or to make it seem less than what it is. That's what makes it racist. But right now, I'm talking to a woman who I believe is my friend. And I don't want anybody here to watch this and say that we're attacking you for being racist. And for that, if I articulated
I think it's
anything,
too late. I think that seed's already sown.
But that is why I'm saying for me. I'm saying for me. I thought I was asking a question about the perception for other people. That's why I prefaced it with, I've never heard you utter anything racist, but I have felt that Pierce was racist in his stance against Meghan Markle. And the last time he was on this show, I said as much. I said it when he was on this show.
And what was his answer to you?
He didn't feel that it was racist. He didn't feel that the racial statements that he was making were racist. But I was talking to him.
Okay, answer me this one, okay? Because I don't know. I don't understand. If he doesn't like someone, and I think this is for everybody who is born white, if Pierce doesn't like someone and they happen to be black, does that make him a racist?
No.
That's a no.
No.
Right. So why can't it be he just doesn't like her? Why does it have to be racist?
Ed, go ahead and end the recording.
Almost like yesterday when you were talking, Mrs. O, it sounded like he was really.
Sorry, Nanette, did you want to stop it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and leave it on pause so that the next video doesn't screw us up again. All right. So, in terms of white fragility, what did you all see in that video? In terms of white fragility and white women's tears, what did you all see in that video? Anybody?
She said, "How can I be racist? I'm 65 years old," which has nothing to do with it. And then she said, "If anybody should be crying, it's me." And my jaw dropped. I've never seen that before.
So she went straight to the good bad binary. I'm a good person.
Yeah, it was a splendid example of why we need this workshop and why we need to read the book.
She went straight to the good bad binary. I'm a good person. And what Robin says in the book is that what white fragility does is it takes the attention away. It takes the topic of racism off the table altogether. And now all we're talking about is this white person a good person or not? We're not talking about Meghan Markle's experience. We're not talking about Sharon Underwood's experience, Cheryl Underwood's experience. We are just affirming Sharon Osbourne as being on the good side of the good bad binary. Racial equilibrium and comfort for the white person is reestablished, and nothing moves forward for Black people, nothing moves forward for white people, nothing moves forward for Sharon Osbourne. Sharon doesn't learn anything new. Nothing moves forward for anyone. That was a perfect example of this. We just reset racial equilibrium. Not only that, go ahead.
There was one other thing that was obvious was she kept on asking, tell me what's wrong with me. Looking outside of herself to get an awareness.
She wasn't. She was attacking Cheryl. She was saying, prove to me, I know I'm right. Prove to me that I'm wrong. You can't prove to me that I'm wrong. She wasn't really asking for anything. Do you see that? She wasn't asking for anything. She wasn't asking for any knowledge. Okay. Not only that, page 123, white fragility rules of engagement. Okay. She says, I have found that the only way to give feedback without triggering white fragility is not to give it at all. Thus, the first cardinal rule is Do not give me feedback on my racism under any circumstances while we are having a conversation about racism. If you insist on breaking the cardinal rule, then you must follow these other rules. Keep in mind, Cheryl Underwood. Rule number 2, proper tone is crucial. Feedback must be given calmly. If any emotion is displayed, the feedback is invalid and can be dismissed. Did you all see how Cheryl was going out of her way? She was jumping over tracks and landmines and hoops. Because if she hadn't, she would have been the angry Black woman, and that's all anybody would have remembered. A not innocent Black woman attacking this innocent white woman. That's all anybody would have remembered. Yeah, you see that?
That was exactly what I thought. That bothered the crap out of me.
And you see that every time Whoopi Goldberg opens her mouth on that show. She gets in hot water every time she says the truth.
She's got to step, and then Whoopi Goldberg comes to a point where she's tired of stepping around it and she just hands it to you.
I found what was more frustrating too is that she tried to say, "You're my friend, and I'm not saying this about you." And Sharon said, "Well, it's already done." Like she did like a last effort of like, "I'm still the victim here."
And what I want you guys to see is Cheryl Underwood. We as Black people, we understand the rules of engagement too. And we do a lot of shucking and jiving and stepping and dodging. What that means is, take notes, people. I need you to write this down, okay? What that means is, if you don't have anybody, again, white fragility and white supremacy work because they are unseen. If you don't have any non-white people in your life challenging you on your views about racism, Beatrice has heard this before. She's already like, all right, hit him with it, Nanette. If you don't have any non-white people in your life challenging you on your views about racism, it doesn't mean that you are doing everything great. It doesn't mean that you are doing everything right. It means the non-white people in your life are doing the dance so well that you can't see it. I want you to chew on that. Because she also says in the book that the daily damage, the daily harm for non-white people is progressive white people who think they have it all together. So we can't tell them anything new. So again, I challenge you folks, if you don't have anybody in your life, any non-white people who are challenging you on your views, it's not because you are doing so great. It's because the non-white people in your life are, is it the swans that are floating on the water, but underneath their feet are going? That's what the non-white people in your life are doing. And you may not know it, but you are putting out a vibe to those non-white people in your life that you aren't having it. Your identity, your self-identity as a good white person is more important than anything they might have to say to you, and they know it. And they just decide that losing their job, losing your friendship, losing you as a ride to work, losing your support on the board just isn't worth it. You see? And I want, this is why I want you to get, this is what I want you to get. I promise you, in the last 30 days, all of you have been Sharon Osbourne somewhere in your life. I promise you. You did or said something and you just went on about your merry way. And the non-white people in your life are like, you know what? Rules of engagement are that it is more important for this white person to affirm her identity as a good white person than for me to hit her up with the truth. So I'm just gonna leave it alone. Well, so what I said on one of my Sundays was, here's your homework. If you don't have any non-white people in your life who are challenging you, grow a pair and go ask them. Go ask some of the non-white, and don't do it in a way where you're asking them to help, where you're asking them to soothe you. Don't say, I haven't done anything wrong, have I? That's still centering you.
Right.
Don't even say, have I done something that was racially insensitive? Say, where have I done or said something where my whiteness stood in the way of honesty between the two of us? Where have I? Do you see the difference?
Yeah.
That opens up a completely different space for this person. When you say, have I done, what they know is what you're really saying, what you're really looking for is, no, you're one of the good ones. So you can go, phew, wash your hands and go off and everything stays the same. Ask, where have I? That opens up a completely different space. And if the answer is, you've been fabulous, you are always so open, I don't feel that I don't feel that I can't come to you and talk. Let them tell you. Don't ask them for it. Let them tell you. Do you see the difference? Somebody shake your head and tell me you heard me. Okay. Ed, you have something to add?
Here, Nanette, I hear you. I hear everything you're saying, but the analogy seems to me, it's like saying we can stop global warming by, eating less meat. My recognition of my white privilege, my recognition of my male privilege, whatever miscellaneous acts I can try to do, that doesn't do anything to Rahm Emanuel closed, the single biggest racist thing I can think of in the last few years, or one of them was Rahm Emanuel closing 50 schools in black and brown neighborhoods in Chicago. I mean, Robin, she makes this point. It's a system. And
it feels too big is what you're saying.
No, it's not that. It's that I think to recognize that we have racism in us, to recognize that we have a long way to go to root that out, that doesn't do that much to eliminate the structural racism of the system, especially when 50% of the people are Republican and believe it's all a crock.
I hear you. And that's, and I get that all the time. And you said you started with global warming, and there are a lot of people who don't bother to recycle their plastic bottles because they feel like, what's the difference? I'm one person, who cares? I too feel overwhelmed by global warming, but I feel like if the least I can do is recycle my plastic bottles, then I should at least do that. I was homeless for 5 months once in Atlanta. All artsy people like me, we got a period where we had to sleep on somebody else's couch so we could get ourselves together. And if somebody gave me $5 that day, that was everything in the world to me. Everything. If that person was standing there going, oh God, you're homeless and there are 13,000 homeless people in Atlanta and I just feel so helpless. All I needed was $5 for bus fare to go check out this job. You understand it? And what I'm trying to say is there are, again, white people are looking for some big thing to do where you can go, okay, it's done and check it off. Well, there's somebody, a person of color in your field who needs something and you don't see it. When I was homeless, things that people did individually for me were everything. And the result is I'm sitting here talking to you all today, right? So that $5
Yes, but you still can't speed on your way home.
I still can't speed on the way home though.
Yeah. But that's
Ed, do I make my point?
I feel like that's
Vicki, I'll come back to you. Ed, do I make my point? Okay. Because sometimes we feel like it's so big and that's just our excuse not to do what's in front of us. And there's somebody right in front of you who's like, you know what? $5 for bus fare to go see about that job would change everything for me. Y'all follow? Or there's a co-worker at your job who is Black, who is constantly getting interrupted at meetings. Always has good ideas, but is always getting interrupted. What's in front of you is to take your white privilege, Ed, as a white person and as a man, to say, I'm sorry, hold on a second, Amy, I think you were onto something. Can we hear some more from Amy?
Mm-hmm.
You follow? And while we're looking for this big windmill to slay, somebody just needs to give Amy a chance to talk. Thank you, Sherry. Yeah, women are so used to being interrupted, and especially as a Black woman, I found that in corporate America, one of the skills I had to develop was to learn to anticipate and make up for being interrupted by white men. So that's something you could, that's a place where you can take your privilege, you know, and spread it around right there. You go, Amy, that was, wait a second, Bob. Amy, what were you saying? That kind of sounds like a good idea. I want to hear some more from Amy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and you know, what's going to happen with global warming? We'll find out 20 years from now. Just recycle that bottle. Vicki and then Laura.
Sorry. So I feel what Ed feels though. I understand that we're not going to resolve this and it's not going to be done or anything like that. But I feel like they're just, you know, since the 1960s, there's been so little change. So little.
And Vicki, you know what? At the riots that we've had, the Black people and the white people that are destroying CVS and, you know, and burning down buildings, they feel the same way. So one, I'm asking you all to have some empathy for that. I'm not saying it's okay, but have some empathy for that. They're sitting around fighting the same fight their parents were fighting in the 60s that they taught us in school, was over because Martin Luther King did everything and then he died.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Okay. So have some empathy for their frustration. And two, just, you got to get in where we say, a Black thing, we say, get in where you fit in. And help, who, like I said, that person that gave me $5, they probably thought, God, I wish I had a place for you to live. I wish I had a job. That $5 was everything for me that day.
Mm-hmm.
Might have made the difference between me eating or not. Might have made the difference between me breaking into a store or not. having a record and going on a different path. Look for what's in front of you. It all makes a difference, I promise. I'm sitting here as proof today. Laura.
Thank you. I'm loving this, by the way. I have a lot of philosophies in my life, and one that I think really adheres to what we're talking about is that I've always said, okay, you can have a truck full of sand, and your job is to take that sand off the truck, but you can only go 1 grain at a time. Are you going to walk away?
Right.
Or are you going to take that one blessed grain of sand off each time? And I know that, you know, and those of you that work on NOW and CJW and all the other wonderful organizations, it is incremental. It is one, I'm really trying not to cuss here because I get so fired up. Are you going to just look at it and go, there is no way, absolutely no way that's ever going to change? Or are you going to look at that and go, you know, if I sit back and go, there's no way, you're right, there's no way. Or am I going to go 1 grain of sand at a time? Whatever you do, the $5, whatever it is, if you sit there and go, no, you're right, it's never going to happen. Or you can be the person that says, let's take 1 grain at a time. That's
and you don't know for whom that 1 grain is going to be everything.
Yep.
Like I said, you know, the day that Ed interrupts Bob and gives Amy the floor, Amy might start feeling like, you know what? I have some good ideas. Now she recognizes she has an ally in Ed.
Yep.
She and Ed start collaborating. Ed maybe starts to mentor her. She gets a raise. Do you think that, we'll name her Jaquila. Do you think Jaquila was caring about this big thing that you couldn't do? You did that was everything for Jaquila. Everything. Now she can afford to put her kids in private school, so on and so forth. That could be you, guys.
Well, and like you said, we all sit here as our white savior or our Jewish savior or whatever it is. I have to do the big thing. No, you don't. You don't have to. You have to go 1 grain of sand at a time. And eventually, something kicks in. So that's my call to people.
And let me add that I also believe that an important point is having some sort of spiritual center. I didn't say religious, I didn't say Jesus, I didn't say Jewishness, but having some sort of center where you understand that you are a part of something bigger. And that something bigger is working itself out. For me, that's what faith means. I have faith that there is something bigger than me and what I want and what I think in this moment. And it's working itself out. And I am an agent in that thing. And I am just looking for ways that I can be in line with that thing and be a part of it working itself out in its own time. And that's what makes a difference for me when I feel like it's all too big.
Nanette,
hold on 1 second, Iris.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Did you all get that? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, Iris, go ahead.
And not only does it make sense, I think it's a beautiful point. And I think that's a good place
to stop,
to pause, to be continued if other people are interested. I'd like to get your information about the Sunday meetings.
Okay, yeah.
I want to thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for the opportunity. If you can't tell, I love what I do. So
Yes.
every time I have an opportunity to do it, the pleasure is all mine.
Yes, and I want to thank you. I've just jotted down so many things that we've talked about: awareness and choice instead of guilt. Use your power. Choose who you are every second. And
recognize your privilege. Own it. Now you get to choose how it operates in the world.
Right. So do you want to share your information on
Yeah.
chat or?
All right, so let me do a 2-minute commercial for myself.
Okay. Okay.
NanetteDmassey.com is my webpage. We're in the process of revamping it, so if you hit a link here and there that, you know, does something weird, just, you know, stay with it. It's got information about what I'm doing. I do a 3.5-hour workshop that I call Moving Beyond White Fragility, Honest and Effective Conversations About Race. I've done it at the Rochester Institute of Technology. I've done it at the Unitarian Universalist Church of East Aurora. I've done it for a law firm. And that's what I really do. Then when COVID sat us down, I started doing an 1.5 hour Zoom call every Sunday, just to keep the conversation going. And it grew so big. I had people from Alaska. I had people from the UK. Yeah, Aaron.
From Canada.
From Canada, from Texas, Minnesota. And, but like I said, when the weather got better and the vaccines showed up, the numbers started dropping. So I'm not certain that I'm going to be starting that up again. But please check back at my my website, NanetteDmassey.com, and see what's up with that. And more importantly, I want you all to start thinking about talking with the influencers and the powers that be in your various organizations, in NOW, at your synagogue, or maybe a group of area synagogues or something like that. I want you all to start thinking about sending me a plane ticket to come out to do my presentation for you. If this is me in a chair, imagine me for 3.5 hours live. I had one woman who said at my presentation at the Rochester Institute of Technology, she said the way I presented this information really changed her life. It was a white woman. She said it changed her whole relatedness to anti-racism work and who she is being with non-white people in her life. So so keep up with my webpage, and like I said, when I figure out what I'm doing, and when Dr. Fauci figures out what we're doing, we'll make something happen. And thank you, Shir Hadass and Southwest Suburban Now. For again, I love what I do, so giving me the opportunity to do what I love, it's like paying me to sit and drink all day.
Yeah, well, we really appreciate it, and I will, we're going to keep track of your website.
Okay.
I hope someday you'll be able to come to Chicago.
I would love to.
And we'll see you later.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all, and have a great evening. Thank you so much for coming. All right, hold on until I save the chat. There we go. All right. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you, Aaron, and my regulars, Beatrice. Thank you,
Bye,
guys.
Nanette. See you soon.
Okay.
The name of the woman who began the Southern Best Boycott, as you know, is Ms. Rosa Parks. In Montgomery, Alabama, not a long time ago, a colored lady sat down on a bus. She was tired, she did day work, she scrubbed floors, her feet hurt, and since that day she'd change the world for us. Because she said, no sir, I won't get up. I'm tired and I want to sit down and I won't get up. You can talk about Martin Luther King, have demonstrations and a thing. Just remember who began it, Rosa Parks. Well, in this wide and wicked world, tell me what kind of man would say to a nice old lady, well, she was just like me and you, and She did what she could do, and she said, no, sir, I won't get up. And she said, no, sir, I won't get up. I won't get up. I'm tired and I want to sit down, and I won't get up. I won't get up. You can talk about Martin Luther King, have demonstrations, anything. Just remember who began it, Rosa Parks. Well, now one day the South will rise, and the North will realize who our heroes really truly are. And then we'll tear down those statues of Robert E. Lee and put one up of good old Rosa Parks. Because she said, no, sir, I won't get up. I won't get up. I'm tired and I want to sit down, and I won't get up. I won't get up. You can talk about Martin Luther King, have demonstrations, anything. Just remember who began it, Rosa Parks. Try it with me. Because she said, no, sir, I won't get up. I won't get up. I'm tired and I want to sit down, and I won't get up. I won't get up. You can talk about Martin Luther King, have demonstrations, anything. Just remember